So you don't get the emergency camera anymore, but there we go. Los Sundays. I'm having just ride the piss out of that thing and have a good time. A Husaberg is a ticking time bomb that is going to blow up. It's just a matter of when, and you do not want to work on it. They are horrible to work on. Yep, if you play bass, you'd better know Davide 504. That guy knows how to run a YouTube channel, by the way. Turn the sound on. Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, everybody. My name is Jimmy Lewis. This is a great show because you get to ask your motorcycle product-related questions. We have some of your friends from Instagram that are going to ask us questions potentially too. Instagram wants you to wave at everybody. See? Wave. But I don't know. Everything works different. So this show is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha did not have a big announcement today. Everybody wants to know what I think about the big announcement. Do you know what the big announcement is? Yamaha's still selling YZ250s. You can go get one tomorrow at your local Yamaha dealer. Tell them Dirt Bike Test sent you. No problemo. So ask your questions in the chat if you're watching us live. Realize there's a little bit of a delay. I will get to them. If you want to send a question in, have us answer it. It's real easy. It's my name, Jimmy, at dirtbiketest.com. I answer every question that gets emailed to us, at least on this show. I don't necessarily reply to every one of them. It would be too much. Sometimes I show a short reply. But ask your questions there. If you're listening to this in the podcast format, which means it's in the future, which is really cool. I'm working out the future, but in the future, you can have your question answered. And then in the future, I will answer it, and then we'll all be happy. So cheers, everybody. Some Los Sundays, by the way. My emergency camera died. That's this one over here. I don't know why. So you don't get the emergency camera anymore. But there we go. Los Sundays. I'm having a little bit more of this tonight. I'm still working on the tequila podcast. That is coming soon, hopefully. And tonight we're going to get to all your questions. So if you're in the chat, if you're in the rooms, let us know where you're from. Let us know what you ride. We have a couple of one of our real long-running segments. You can see it back up there on the top there. It's up there if you're on the YouTubes. That is our Rooster Endo collection. And if you look way back up there, like right up there where that one is, that's a Husaberg 570. And it's untouchable. There's no way that your bike, no matter what it is, roosts as big as that. So I'm going to do something a little different this week because there's no questions in the chat currently. I'm going to start with the segment we like to call Roost or Endo because I got a couple submissions this week. They're not great, I'll be honest with you. You guys are kind of like losing it. It wouldn't take much to win this segment. Brought to you by Taco Moto. That's tacomoto.co. If you want to get some cool parts for your bike, play Rooster Endo. Or just go to tacomoto.com. No, not .com, .co. tacomoto.co. This is Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Don't get confused with all the taco shit. tacomoto.co. Check out their stuff. They are providing a $100 gift certificate to the bike that we feel brings us the most entertainment, whether it roosts or endos. So, thanks to everybody on the grams. Fast Company Flex Handlebars, another great sponsor. Bulletproof Designs. They make me special one-off parts because I like disc protectors, so they make them for me out of wood. Can you hear that? Yep. And a big shout out to my good buddy JB Black, who refuses to come in and do a podcast, but he has a book called Written in Scars and a new one that I don't have yet, but I'm getting it. And if you're like me, you can ride the shit out of your bikes and, haul ass and burn gas. You know what we say. Okay. I'm going to hang up on the Instagrammers because you're not asking questions. This is the show. Here you get to see the whole show here. The microphone. There's my tequila. There's the Tacosaurus with Travis on it. I'm just giving a tour of the studio for the Instagram people. And this is what it looks like around in here. It's awesome. See you later. End. Okay. So shares are real. Sure, whatever. I don't know how it works. This social media stuff, people try to tell me that we could actually do a lot better, and guess what? They're exactly right. This is show 284, I believe. Actually, I should know because I have a document set up with it. Yes, show 284. There we go. All my YouTubes are done. So I'll make sure I turn my ringer off. That's good. Now I'm ready to take calls if I have to in an emergency. I tried to get someone from Kawasaki to come and talk to me, but the official response was, we don't know anything more than what we've already told you, so it'd be a waste of their time to come on this show. And they're right, because I would just grill them and try to figure out how it works. So let me know how the sound is. I'm pretty sure the sound's a little bit low. I'm going to give it a little kick in the ass right there. I wish I could do, I think sometimes this helps a little bit if I do that, but I can't tell. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Roosterendo, brought to you by Takamoto. Thanks, Trent, for tuning in on your northern Utah, with his 300 XC. And Chris and Michaela in Steamboat Springs. And they have a TPI and an XR50. Awesome. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So this segment, I need bumper music for this crap, by the way. Roosterendo. Tonight, we have 2 entries. First up, and here's the best part, is I always do this at the end of the show, and some of these guys just come on to root for their bike or get a couple of their friends to join in, and they're going to miss out. I could really try to go for ratings and stuff like that, but I'm not. So this is Taylor Colliers, the 4th. This is his 2019 Honda CR450L. And let me tell you something. I'm pretty sure that this bike has been sent in before. Now, I know I saw it before. I don't remember if I put it on the show. So if you are watching the show on a regular basis and this looks familiar, tell me. Because I don't think he won. But Taylor, come on. I think the original email that you sent me was exactly the same. It was a cut and copy, paste, resend. I don't know. And if I missed it, then it's on me. But if you just lost the last round and just resent it, good on you, because I told people that they could do that. So there we go. A 2000 Honda CR450L. It's refurbished Baja build by Colton Udall, Champion ADV. You know that guy? Yeah, I know that guy. This was his YouTube giveaway bike. The bike had some class wins in the Parker and District 37 by a previous owner before Colton built it. So he has a Champ ADV kit for side covers delete, thermostat delete, emissions delete, chain guard tabs remove, and welded and reinforced. I swear, because I would tell you that when you have your chain guard tabs removed and chain guide reinforced, that's a good thing, because it's expensive when you can't see it because it's on the other side, but it's down back there on the back. That's an expensive problem when it happens to you. So, and like when I see the quote, race bikes, factory bikes that Johnny Campbell builds and stuff, this is something they do. We have some news on that front too. Maybe I think we have some guys that are going to be getting essentially a JCR factory ride for Reno to Vegas, because they made a nice proposal to a dirt bike test. So this could happen in the near future. But back to Roosterendo, right there. Baja Design's headlight, 3-gallon IMS tank, Source off-road subframe chop kit with 450X style stuff, double take mirrors. Double Take, a sponsor of the show. And a lot of the sponsors of this show, by the way, if you decide that you're going to do something with your bike and one of our sponsors might have something and you're interested in it, tell me a little bit about it. Send me an email. Tell me a little bit about it. I might send you a discount code because I have some pretty good ones, really good ones sometimes that I'm kind of allowed to give out. And if somebody looks like they're putting some effort in, I like to reward the extra work. So here we go. What else is on this bike? TM Design Works skid plate and shark fin with BRP chain guide, new low miles 450X suspension taken off a race build, Vortex ECU, Pro Circuit full exhaust, 450R camshaft, ripping mid-range and top end. Okay, Seat Concepts, Comfort Center Seat, Scott Stamper. There's lots of stuff. Pro Grip Rally Grips. Did Colton put those on is what I want to know. So this is where if he was in the chat and he could answer this question, that would help me. Because we actually talked about Pro Grip Rally Grips for about 20 minutes last show. And so if you want to learn a little bit, you can go back. Because when I see some of these things, I'll kind of break it down. But somebody asked, like, why, when, why, how would you run those? And we had a really good discussion about it. So last show, 283, I guess. Get it on the wherever you get your podcasts, like they say. Oh, while you're at it, why don't you like me and subscribe me? Just do that stuff so that I can get more millions of US dollars that come in from doing podcasting. Yeah. Galfer rotors and pads. That means they're old because Galfer is now G Brakes, by the way. Galfer has kind of changed their name. They're making more stuff here over in the U.S. And, Faster USA rebuilt wheel set, OEM hubs, Cerakoted and laced XL rims with stainless spokes and nipples, nitro mousses inside Bridgestones. I know I've read all this stuff before. Picture taken in beep, beep, headed up to beep. It was only 4 hours before I fell off an exposed piece of single track and broke my form. Okay, now I remember the story. So, yes, he's hoping to get it tacoed, motoed up. Good luck. I don't know. If you're in the chat, let me know what you think. It's pretty simple. Just tell me whether it roosts or endos, because if it's a second submission, it endos no matter what. But it could bring us joy and make everything better. So our second submission in Rooster Endo, brought to you by tacomoto.co, is this amazing Yamaha PW50. So here's the way this show works. This is a completely stock blue Yamaha PW50. It's a 2003, I believe. I didn't do very good with my cut and paste. 2003 Yamaha PW50, freshly rebuilt top end, ready to rip. New forks, top end, ready to go. Oh, for sale. Yeah, we are calling this segment Rooster Endo for sale. By the way, Taylor's bike might be for sale as well, even though we won it in a contest. That's Los Sundays, by the way, if you're wondering what I'm sipping there. A nice little sipper for you. So I guess you win 1 week with a PW50. The next week it's PW50. I'm surprised I didn't get 10 of them sent in. But unfortunately, this bike, it looks like they ran out in the I don't know. They ran out in the they got the mat out there or something. Is that the bike washing mat or something? But he couldn't even get the whole PW into the picture, which, I mean, you got to do better than that. And he wanted to show off his bike a little bit, but not all that good. And that bike behind there is I have one of those that's for sale, and it's horrible. It's not horrible, but it's horrible. It was when Yamaha thought they could stuff the 5-valve regular engine into No, wait. No, I'm wrong. It's not the horrible one because that is the reverse. It's just old enough to where I can't recognize it. I thought it was the one that was in the 250 chassis, the old the first year of fuel injection, as it were. But no, that looks like a 2012, 14, 15. I don't know. Anyways, back to the PW. If you get your so this is Kevin. Kevin, if you get your kid to come into the chat and on his own or her own, whoever, I don't know, who you didn't even tell me your kid's name, which I think is kind of mean because your kid probably wants. I want you to tell me. I want your kid to type in their name and then tell me what they like about their bike and how come their dad's selling it because they got bad grades in school. I want to know that answer. That could Rooster Endo too. So we're going to put these on hold, by the way, and I will decide by the end of the show, hopefully, if I remember, because you know how this show goes. So, Kevin and Taylor, yeah, I got a question in the chat. Michaela, how old were you when you first rode a motorcycle? I'm 8. I was 7 when I first rode. Okay, so awesome, Michaela. I was like when I first rode, I was around your age, like 8, 9. I rode a mini bike into the side of my friend let me ride his mini bike, and I rode it into the side of his mom's car. That's how I started riding. And then I realized that that's all I wanted to do. And I just practiced a lot. I really liked it. It was better than my BMX bike. And Cody says the PW Endos. Well, Cody, what if that was your kid's bike and somebody just came out of nowhere and said that Endos? just putting it out there, my friends. Okay. So, yeah. So what kind of, Michaela, what kind of bike do you have? I want to know. And XR50, I guess it is, because that's what it says up in the thing. How come you didn't submit for Rooster Endo? Because if you were in the chat right now, I promise you would get my vote to Roost and probably to win. And then your dad would take that $100 gift certificate and go buy something cool for his KTM TPI bike, because I know how dads are, right? So, hey, we did have one email question that I wanted to get to. This is from Mike. You might know Mike. Mike made an appearance. Mike was changing tires in the background on a couple shows ago, probably around 281. That's Mike. But he's got a good question, and I'll dive deep into this one. He says, "Hi, Jimmy. I currently have a 2023 Gas 300 EC that I bought used with roughly 50 hours. Now it has 112 hours on it. I cannot afford to buy new bikes, so I like to keep this one running well. For a bike that gets ridden 2-3 times a month, and aside from regular maintenance and breakage, how often," I just read them like it is, "how often would you recommend doing service, such as a top-end clutch plate, suspension service, chains and sprockets on the guides, brake pads, and bleeding? Or should I go with the old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach?" So this is an awesome question. This is the kind of thing that you should, if you have a friend, earmark this timestamp, whatever we're at, 25 minutes into this. Say, hey, go listen to that episode of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, number 284, about 25 minutes in, because this is some of the best advice that we'll ever give on this show, because I've done this over 100 times. And ask me later, remind me to ask you to ask me about the cylinder rule for aging. But anyways, okay, it doesn't matter what bike it is, but it's a 2023 gas. It's current. The parts are still readily available. If you bought it used with 50 hours, that's a good time range in general to where the bike probably wasn't too thrashed, or it was completely destroyed and the guy had some bad experiences, he's just getting rid of it. So there's this weird double-edged sword when you get a low-hour bike. If you know the owner, you rode with them, you know what he was doing, you'll have a good idea. But when it's really low hours, if the guy comes out on crutches, you're good. If you look at the guy's garage and it's a complete disaster and he's got a truck with a bunch of modifications on it, and when I buy a bike, I look at the person's other stuff because they're just selling the bike, but you look at the other stuff to kind of get a grasp on what's going on. So 50 hours is generally good, could be really bad. Top of the morning. So, of course, I cannot afford to buy new bikes. I could afford to buy new bikes, but I have learned, and I do the same thing with my trucks, that I I ride things and use them quite hard. So when I get a brand new one, and I get a lot of brand new bikes all the time because we test brand new bikes. And so it's lost on me whether it's new or used. I just take it and ride the way I want to ride, which means I don't care what it looks like. I'm just going to go have fun. And I put time on it. I don't care about scratches and things like this. So I generally don't buy new ones. I kind of find a good deal on a used one, or I buy a test bike that got used by somebody who tried to ride it to 10/10 to figure out exactly how it works. Most of my bikes are used test bikes that we tested, and we rode the crap out of them, rode them hard. And generally I can get them for a good price because the manufacturer knows that, and they're just like, we don't want it back. It's better if you buy it. So we're into that paragraph. For a bike that gets ridden 2-3 times a month, and aside from regular maintenance and breakage, okay, so this is probably pretty normal riding load for a normal person. And, that's probably like 5 to 7 hours, 8 hours. It depends on how long you're really riding it. It could be, let's just say it's getting 10 hours a month. So you're going to do let's just say 100 hours a year, that's kind of like that's an average for someone who's a fan of riding. And so, yeah, regular maintenance, and I'm sure that's air filters, oil changes. That's really what regular maintenance is. We can add like brake pads, chain sprockets. He asks about those kind of things. So I'll kind of go down the list. So when things get worn out, it's time to replace it. It's just plain and simple, and you don't want it to go to the point where the part could cause a failure, on a ride. Because you think about how valuable your time is. And I don't want to take a bike out and have it wreck my ride or leave me stranded, and then I have to involve other people to get me out. I wreck other people's rides or someone's day to have to come and get me. There's a lot that goes into that. So it's like at that point you're kind of going, what is your time worth? What am I? What should I be doing here? So when the brake pads get 3/4 of the way down, have a set. Order them. You don't need them the next time, but you'll have them there ready to go. Chains and sprockets. It's really easy to see. And Gary has TTT 327 Tuesday. Our Yamaha still has YZ250s on the floor. You want me to talk about that other thing? So anyways, so things like, wear items, chain guides and sprockets. And I run a DDC. I run these, by the way. I'm going to grab one right here. DDC. These things never wear out. I mean, you can wear them out on, in the mud and stuff like that, but out here in the desert, they never wear out. So my sprockets don't wear out, so it's really easy on my chains. Worn sprockets wear chains out quicker. I tend to buy higher quality chains and sprockets when I do this, so it's less of a hassle. Dragging the thing through mud and everything like that, it's going to wear the guides and stuff like that. Companies like Acerbis and TM Design Works make really good improved strength chain guides and buffer pad kits and stuff like that, but they're a little noisier than stock. But those kind of things, the wear items, it's just pay attention to it and change it. Just like the other fluids, we'll call them, the brake fluid, for instance. If you're in a moist environment, you're going to need to do the brake fluid more because it's going to, in weird ways, it's going to absorb moisture. So I would do the brake fluid. I would do a flush like once a year. And the way that I do it is really simple. I will, with no pressure on this system, and everybody thinks, Joe, you're crazy. Sometimes I'll force bleed it, but I'm not going to back bleed it. I'm going to put pressure on the master cylinder and then open the caliper and let it squirt out, and then make sure I never let the master cylinder go low. But sometimes, no pressure on it, especially if it's a front brake, I will just barely crack the bleed screw at the bottom. And then the gravity will start taking it down, and I'll just start filling the top up and let it slowly bleed its way through. And trust me, no air gets in it. Okay, there's enough pressure from the top to go down. On some rear brake systems, you can do this as well. So bleed the brakes. That's something good to do. Same thing on this bike, you're talking about transmission fluid. On a 4-stroke, you're changing your engine oil. That's good. The other fluid is suspension service. So it depends on how hard you ride it. I think that within the first 40 hours, you need to replace, you need to service your suspension because it breaks in and that dirt, that contamination is in there. If you do it within 20 hours, I think you're doing yourself a favor because it's broken in. They'll get all the contaminants out of there. Then you're starting with good, fresh fluid. And then you can decide if you want to do anything more to your suspension. But if you start with the stock fluid, if you start going into the 100-hour range, you can start wearing the suspension components to the point where they'll affect performance. So I like to do my suspension within 20 to 30 hours, 40 hours at a maximum, change the fluid, and then I'll ride it and I'll decide, do I need to have the suspension modified for my taste, likes, or whatever. And at that point, because now you're going to have it rebuilt again, and a lot of times it's in a short period of time. It's like 10 more hours, and you can see, or you can ask your suspension guy, how did that fluid come out? How did it look? If you're really hard on it and the suspension looked worn, well, then you're going to need to be doing it every 20 hours, every 30 hours. I can get like 80 to 100 hours out of suspension fluid, easy, if it's been rebuilt early. And then, if you're putting good quality stuff in there, it tends to last. You don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of that once a year thing you would want to think about having your suspension done, because we're talking about this 100-hour cycle during a year. So you're making my throat dry talking so much. And my brain hurts too from thinking like this. You need a beer sponsor here on this show, by the way. Marco, hello. Marco? Yeah. Polo. So then we get to top ends. And this, again, is dependent on how you ride. If you hit the rev limiter, you like just revving the crap out of your bike. If you're not very good at warming your bike up, at least a little bit. If you... it doesn't matter if you're like, kind of wide open. It's more about like how aggressive you're riding the bike. So rev limiter and over revving is bad. And then if you just lug it all the time, that's bad too, because it's on the other side. It builds up carbon, where the over rev guy, you're just stretching the shit out of parts. If you're not doing those things, bikes last a long time. Like even a 250F, I have no problem saying, hey, 80 hours is no worries at all on most of the modern 250Fs. If you're racing it, maybe turn it back to 50. On these 2-strokes these days, easy 100 hours. But it's so simple to pull the pipe off and just look up into the cylinder with a flashlight and look at the piston skirt and stuff like this. If you're not letting dirt get past your air filter, and you are not riding it ridiculously hard, it's going to go a long time. And the 2-strokes, for the most part, will let you know when it's time. They either get rattly or they actually have a pretty noticeable loss or drop in power. So think about that. The 4-strokes, on the other hand, and the 2-strokes, even though they're losing power, sometimes they run better. I hate to say that my 2-strokes that have blown up in spectacular fashion, which have been few and far between, mostly rod seizures, were running really good when it happened. Like the 4-strokes and everything, they'll do some ticking and stuff like that. But a lot of times, if you let them go too long, it can just get very expensive. But too long is depending on the brand, on the part. Like some bikes have the crank and the crank bearings and the rod bearings and stuff like that are a little suspect, or I want to say suspect. Well, they're what goes. Where other ones, like the valve trains, have issues. Certain things in the valves, and it's not like the old days. Stuff's gotten much, much better, but they're also asking more and more performance out of this. So there is this thing: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the problem is, if it ain't broke, it can make you broke when it finally goes. So it's just kind of like learning to know that. You can kind of check on. Problem is there's so many ding-dongs out there posting so much crap on the internet and on the forums that it's hard to get. If you don't know, it's hard to like see through the bullshit. But most of the bikes are easily good for 100 hours. And then sort of the way I like to do it is I take it apart and do it. When I do a top end, I will like really inspect stuff to see how everything is. I measure a lot of things. I measure the bore diameters, the ring end gap. Really carefully check the crank and the lash inside of the, is the transmission lashing. Just different little things that I've over years learned how to check to see if it's bad. And after I do a couple of motors, of that type of motor, like I'm very familiar with KTM 500s. I never ever want to tear them apart until 500 hours. And I'm not kidding that. I don't want to take it 500 hours. If there's a symptom, I want to just address only that symptom. I don't want to go much deeper inside of it. And there's a Facebook post where a guy has a ticky noise that I want to tell you about because I know exactly what it is, because I went and changed a freaking cam chain not knowing that the ticky noise is my clutch dampers. Early KTM 500, but they're still the same. So, and he went through the same thought process and the same checking the sounds. He's putting the screwdriver against the engine and listening to the vibration. And I swore it was my cam chain and it was my clutch dampers. So, but on the 2-stroke specifically, 100 hours, you got easy 100 hours. I would let it go 150, but I would look at the piston. And if the piston looks good, and then pull it out and throw a piston in there and piston and rings and let it go another 100 hours and look at it again. And I'm on my 2019 300 TBI, exact same motor as you're running there. I think yours is still TBI, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm on my 3rd piston, stock cylinder, going on about 80 hours again. And I'm kind of like planning on doing it again. I'm doing a test. I have a Wiseco piston there. I had a Pro X in before. I have a Wiseco now, which are basically the same piston. I think they're almost exactly the same piston. They just have different marking on the Wiseco has the Wiseco logo in the skirt. I'm trying to verify that, but nobody will give me the answer. But, so I'm trying to go 100 hours on it just to see what it's like. But every time I pull it out, my cylinder's still good. I measure it, I measure the skirts and stuff like that. And it and I'm running whatever oil I'm running in it, and it's all good. So that's where it's out. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it is okay right until the point when it's not. But just, I think that just being sensible about this stuff and just plan it. just say, hey, at 150 hours, I'll have the piston and the gasket kit in stock, and I'm just, ready to do it. And it may be 140 hours, it may be 160 hours. It doesn't matter. But if your bike starts doing something that's different, figure out what it's doing, figure out why the reason is, and then just work on that one part. So, okay, I'm going to answer some questions back in the chat. Gary Drummond says, do you run pump gas or do you go for the non-ethanol fuel? I live in California, so I have ethanol at the pump. I'm in Nevada, and we have your stupid freaking California fuel, so it has ethanol in it. And it's expensive because you stupid California people that keep doing California things. And then don't move here either, by the way. So I run pump gas in all of my bikes. I run PMEX when I'm in Mexico. I run pump gas when I'm here. I run the better stuff when I can, if it's available. Like some places it's not available, but I always run the better stuff. And I'm not afraid of ethanol. I just don't let my bikes, I try not to let them sit for that long. Sitting in ethanol is a bad mixture. And especially when the area, luckily we're not moist. If it was moist, it would be worse because the ethanol would absorb the moisture. You kind of don't notice it, and then there's a lot of it. Then bad things happen. If you're just burning the ethanol off, it's good. When it has a lot of water in it, bad. Okay. KTM Rider 916 says, I checked my valves on my XCF 350 after 1 hour, like the manual states, and I got decimated on Facebook when I posted it. Okay. Because, well, first of all, a lot of your manual is written by lawyers. So, I have a KTM with like 800, KTM 350. It's an older one with like 800 and something hours on it. It's up there, way up there. I checked the valves a couple times and they never changed, and I just quit doing it. And even people at KTM, friends that work there, that are they work in dealer services and warranty and all that kind of stuff. They said, don't worry about it. The thing's overbuilt. So when you checked it, by the way, KTM Rider 916, they were perfect, correct? All within spec. And this is back to that thing, don't fix it unless it's broken. Don't check it unless you need to. If it's running good, and the problem is like, how do you know when it? How do you know if it's running good with limited experience? And I get that. Just be really leery of doing all of the if you did the regular maintenance schedule, I think you're supposed to replace your motor after 50 hours. I don't know what the schedule says. Just ride the piss out of that thing and have a good time. Keep the filter clean, change your oil every once in a while, and don't over rev it. You'll love that thing. Let's see. Jesse G says, replace the cam chain replace the cam chain tensioner on my KTM 350 XCF. And my answer is why? Again, did you replace it to one of the manual ones, or did you just pop a new one in there? These are the things that Jimmy wants to know. And Gary says, some bikes have no thermostat. I like that for one less failure option. So interestingly enough, I had hoses that were going bad on one of my KTM 500s, and I really wanted to keep it stock with the thermostat. I have never had a KTM thermostat go bad. Let me repeat that again. And I have 40 semi KTMs with thermostats in them. I have never had a KTM thermostat go bad, nor have I ever had a failure with any of the stock hoses. Aside from this bike, the hoses were getting a little extra stretchy. I don't know why. It has a lot of hours on it, and they were kind of fragmenting around where the clamping surfaces was. I think I over-tightened them a couple times, and then it kind of got in there. The coolant started getting in there, deteriorating. So anyways, aside from paying $400 for the stock hoses, I just went ahead and got a radiator hose kit that eliminated the thermostat. And I will tell you how it turns out. It's the first time I've done this. I don't see any problems with the thermostat. being in there, I know how to warm a bike up. If I were doing what I do a lot of times when it's cold, which is just start the bike up and ride down the street to the gas station slowly, I'm going to pay a little bit more attention on that bike, just so that it's going to take a little bit longer to warm up. Especially my 2-strokes, I would be a little leery of taking the thermostat out. And then Jesse G says, how often should you lube the axle? You should lube the axle when you change your tire. So let's see. And he also prefers to drink his ethanol. Some people would say that's what this is, but no, this is not ethanol. My Los Sundays. Let's see. 916 is Sacktown. Got it. Okay. Where did that come from? But good to see you, Jesse. From Sacktown. Going to Hangtown. I hope you're going to Hangtown because that's a fun time. I wish they still had the 125 race because I would be there. Actually, I would almost come up there just to ride the amateur day, but it's a long ways and gas is really expensive. Fast Eddie says he lives in Carson Valley and he has 91 non-ethanol, 100 non-ethanol at the pump. Run the 100 in the modded CR500, 91 in the 25 Husky TE. That sounds right. I was not a big fan of high octane fuel in my 2-strokes. So I would tell you, try putting run a gallon of that 91 in the 500. Well, it depends how modded it is too. I mean, because sometimes, I don't know. I always thought the throttle response was better with the lower octane fuel. The higher octane fuel made it a little bit crisp and barky. I didn't like that, but that's me. Let's see. KTM Rider says, yes, they were, man, kind of tight on one and one feeler gauge from loose to, but yes, in spec. Okay, let me read that again. Hold on. Let me read it. Yes, they were, man, kind of tight on one and one feeler gauge from two loose, but yes, in spec. So if you're listening to this too on a podcast form, you don't realize that I just poured myself another shot of Los Sundays tequila. This is from bottle number 4, a very special bottle. And I just read it like, man, yes, they were, man, kind of tight on one and one feeler gauge from, so they were, well, it's really so it depends on what feeler gauge set you have. I have a really good feeler gauge and it has one every 100th of a millimeter. And then I have another one that's every 1,000th, so I can get the exact readings on it. And some people, depending on how hard they want to push their feeler gauge, will get a different reading than me. KTM Rider, if just based on what you just told me, don't ever check them again. Just ride that thing, enjoy it, change your oil, don't over rev it. It'll be just fine. And after an hour, I would say it's after. I don't know when things move because I put a lot of engines together and just to check them, I pulled them right back apart after a short amount of time. And I never saw any movement in unless you did something wrong, there's no movement. Let's see. And Jesse's back with his tensioner. It was the tensioner with internal spring. The bike got jammed up and couldn't start it. Couldn't kickstart it. Rode it just fine. Then the next ride, it was jammed. Okay, so the stock tensioner that really, okay, so a stock KTM tensioner has, it's an oil pressure tensioner. It uses oil pressure to keep tension, but there's a spring in there that kind of holds it when the motor is not running because, of course, there's no oil pressure. Oh, hey, KTM Rider, don't be sorry for typing like that. We just like to make fun of people. That means we like you. So back to the tensioner. So you replaced it with just another stock one? because companies like Dirt Tricks is one of the companies that makes a manual cam chain tensioner. This is a dangerous thing for most people because cam chain, if you're a good race mechanic, you know how to set the tension. And most do it by feel. They'll either feel it when they assemble the motor, or they can know just the pressure and the sound when the motor is running. They can adjust it this way. But the hydraulic one, it's engineered in, it works good. Okay, so he does have a Dirt Tricks tensioner. So you replaced it with one of their drop-in ones, not the manual. Oh, and you paid a mechanic. Hey, I'm a mechanic too. I have a big hammer and a pipe wrench sometimes. So the bike got jammed up. Did your cam chain jump a tooth? Because that's really weird. Because the internal spring usually holds it to where it can't jump a tooth, but yeah. Oh, he's got a good KTM mechanic that works from his house. So, holy crap! KTM Rider just gave us a donation. Thank you, buddy. That's really appreciated. But we also couldn't do it without the help of our other sponsors, Yamaha. All the companies that are flashing on the screen have at one point or another been sponsors of this show, and they help us out. So I'm trying to diagnose your motorcycle product related questions while I'm having some Los Sundays tequila tonight. It may have been. It was a while back, so it was hard to remember. Just like everything I do in the show. It's hard to remember. So, like I like to tell you, it's like the Men in Black episode. I get shot with that gun when I walk out of this room, and it's all over. But cam chain tensioners. I learned this because I had Honda XR80s, and it had a little 10 millimeter bolt with a press fitting that squeezed an eccentric cam that you would spin, and you could listen to the cam chain. You could let it get loose, and you could hear it get tight. And believe it or not, on that bike, it made a difference. You could put enough tension on the cam chain where it made the bike make less power. And you could wear out your cam chain and your cam chain sprockets and stretch the cam chain. Ask me how I know. So lots of things like this. The Dirt Tricks one is if it's just the drop-in one, you're fine. It's just a better version of the stock one. And it does, in the Dirt Tricks one, I think has a better spring. I don't recall. I've had there was a problem when there was a bad batch, evidently, of KTM ones. And so it became a thing. Everybody on the internets, back when the internets were kind of new, everybody said, oh my God, your bike's going to blow up. Well, just had to let it build some oil pressure. So the best thing to do was not start your bike up and hold it wide open. Give it a second. So the Fast Eddie 500 says, I have an MSD advanced ignition head squish mod for higher elevation, port timed, ported, polished. The Professor engine builder of 500s, Adam Miller, said it's suited for 100 octane after that engine work. I'm not going to disagree with Adam Miller, and with all that stuff, you let that thing rip. How come that bike was not submitted for Rooster Endo? This is what I would want to know, because that thing evidently roosts. I mean, you just listed out the options there. So if you want to submit a bike for Rooster Endo, it's really simple. You email me, Jimmy@dirtbiketest.com. There's 3 simple rules. Well, actually 4. Rule number 1, you have to put Rooster Endo in the subject line. Rule number 2, year, make, and model. Number 3, tell us a little bit about your bike. And number 4, include a picture that represents your bike that hopefully you're proud of, that isn't something you just shot with your phone when you walked past your bike in your garage when you're coming home from work just before you ran to the computer to watch this show. Okay, like I said. Ohio Dual Sports. He said he went to change the air filter on his FE501 for the first time and found the reeds lying at the bottom of the airbox. You're not the only one. Do you do something to keep them secure in your 500s? Well, what year is your 501? I'm going to guess it's a newer one. It's like 2022 or newer, because it seems like they have changed some stuff in the ignition mapping that makes those bikes more prone to backfiring, essentially. And when they backfire, because the reeds are closing that thing off, they get popped out. At the factory, they generally put a little bit of glue around those things. I think in the older days, they put a lot more glue because they didn't really want you to be able to remove them so easily. But the glue gun might have got turned down a few notches. And because I think most people think they should remove the reeds. I like to keep mine in, although on the 500 that I've been riding the most lately, mine popped out a couple times and I just took them out because, and I wish I could keep them in. I just didn't have time, and I've just been lazy to go really glue them back in. So there are a couple different products that are good at gluing those rubbery type surfaces that can make everything stick. But that's what you use. You kind of put a seal around, but you've got to give it that 24 hours or 48 hours to really dry and adhere. But if the bike is constantly pop stalling, and the crazy thing about that is you're the one that's making it do that. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just certain people that know how to turn the throttle exactly the wrong way to make that a real problem, where other people will ride around it, whether they know they're doing it or they're not. They don't know they're doing it. I can ride around that. I don't have that problem because there's a spot in there where it gets, like, we'll call it hiccupy, and it likes to do that pop and backfire and stuff. So, so I glue those things in there when I have time, or they were glued in and they stayed in for a long time until over time all of the kind of gas and stuff, the alcohol from the filter oilings and things like that wore at it, and then they came out. So I think I'm trying to think of the name of the adhesive. I want to say it's something like a 6001 or some type of a. It's a kind of a rubber bond that takes a long time to cure, but when it cures, it's pretty good. I mean, you can still peel it out, but it's really, really grippy. Next question: the Night Punisher. Any opinions of a KTM 530 EXC? Recently went down the rabbit hole. Went to look at an 08 with 6,000 miles and walked away because it needed too much work. I have an opinion here. I think you did the right thing. The 2008 to 2011 530s specifically is a I'll call it a short lifespan motor, and I don't know what KTM did, why they're like this, but everything wears out at about 150 hours, and then at 150 more hours it wears out again. We're talking crank, piston, cylinder. I don't know why, because the Husaberg that I love so much, the 570 Husaberg, is all of those same kind of parts with a different orientation, and they last forever. Beware of that generation of bikes. If you get a 400, on the other hand, they'll last a little bit longer. But that bike was in a funny place where KTM was trying to go a certain direction that everybody didn't go at that point. And that's why they went back to the 500. That was more like the 525. It was just, I would walk away from those things. Go do yourself a favor and get a 2012 or newer 500. You're probably spending $500 more, but you're going to save it in the long run 3 or 4 times over. KTM Rider 916. It just brought the 2025 KTM 350 first four-stroke since his 2008 CR450 I had years ago. Since then, I've had 3 300s, and man, this 350 is unbelievable, and I love it. I think you're going through something that a lot of people do, is switching from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. You notice the differences, and you can kind of appreciate them. Like you don't have to shift that 350 nearly as much as you would your 300 because the power band is so long. And that's just kind of the nature of the 4-strokes. In the 350 has almost the torque of the 300, but then it just kind of keeps revving and revving, and sometimes they feel lighter because if you're not really revving it that much, in other words, not making that much power, they tend to be light and flickable. So Gary Drummond says, I watch Tech Talk Taco Tuesday on this 65-inch Roku. It's the only way to watch. I'm sorry. I imagine that way you can read the comments, not have to look at my ugly mug while I'm sitting here sipping some Los Sundays tequila. It's a blend of high and lowland sustainably farmed agave. Los Sundays tequila for all those that are wondering. I'm going to get a sponsorship one of these days. Fast Eddie. He says, I will soon. It's got a lot of badass parts and work done to it. Billet cases, hydro clutch, micro polish transmission, etc. And I actually ride it a lot. I've had it since 01. That sounds like a bitchin' bike. I was lucky enough to ride what we called the Eric Krippa Barkmaster CR500, which was it was almost Jean-Michel Bell's factory bike, except Eric made it faster, and then we tuned it to pull hole shots at Mammoth Mountain Motocross, which it did in the pro class in 3 out of 3 motos, I think. I don't know if we did 2 or 3 motos back then, but that's all I wanted to do is go there and get hole shots, and I did. Then I worked my way back to whatever 8th place or something where I belonged. But nothing like a hole shot. Ohio Dual Sports 2024. I didn't notice any glue, by the way. I have never had a backfire. Ooh. It runs great. I have the Taco Moto ECU reflash since my warranty ran out. I wouldn't worry about your warranty. Never had a backfire. But you said it was your first air filter change, so hopefully you didn't run your air filter since 2024. You didn't notice any glue. Well, you see the newspapers. KTM evidently is kind of like running a little loose on the emissions requirements these days, is what they say. But that's a load of bullshit that I don't even want to get into. And hey, there's also some other I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called Ride Apart. It's a thing that comes across on my Facebook feed. Delete those assholes. So I saw them. So last time they were commenting on stuff was when the Blue Ribbon was Blue Ribbon Coalition, which is fighting for your public land access. They were doing some stuff and were siding with. They were, and if you saw what they just did, it's amazing. And they're working 5 steps ahead of what you're aware of. And there's smart people and good people that are in there that are really believe that we have our right to access public lands. So this Ride Apart dipshit had a bone to pick with somebody and tried to convince motorcycle people they should side with the wilderness people. What a piece of crap. And now he's making clickbait shit about the KTM emissions investigation that's going on over in Europe. And if you read just the facts, they're not doing anything funny. It's like if you go to your dealer and you want your dealer to sell you, the bike is street legal when you buy it, but you can have your dealer make it into a race bike if you agree that it's only going to be a race bike. And at that point, KTM or the dealer have nothing to say about what you do with it. I don't want to live in a California society where everybody's responsible for everybody else's stuff. So anyways, let's see. KTM didn't have oil migration issues between the engine and tranny in that 08 gen. They did. Okay, so that was an interesting thing on the 08, that version. Maybe that's what the problem really was centered around. So they had separate oil for the transmission and for the engine. And Honda seemed to really like that system for a little while. And that's what I think what KTM was going after at that point. But I know that in all their race motors, they unified the oiling systems. They didn't have two. But yeah, you're right about that. KTM Rider 16. When doing my valve clearances, I found my spark plug gasket wasn't staying in the valve cover. Then further research found someone else had a 2023, the gasket fell out. Is this the newer 2023 plus? Spark plug gasket wasn't staying in the valve. Oh, so the O-ring. Okay, because that's the twin cam thing. So when I put those back together, I always put a little bit. I always call it YamaBond. By the way, Yamaha, a sponsor of Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I use Yamaha Bond on my KTMs to make them better. So I use a little bit of the Yamaha Bond that it's a fuel resistant adhesive gasket maker. Is technically what it is. It's the gray stuff. I always put a little bit of that around any of the ones that when you're installing that cover, and even the external valve cover gasket, I'll put a little bit on the upper lip of the gasket, not so that it spills out, but just so it sticks up in there so it doesn't want to fall out and then maybe kind of get misaligned when you're setting it down. But usually you can kind of feel that. But when that gasket goes out, you know it loses a lot of oil. In fact, there was a post someplace. Somebody said after they washed their bike, there was the weep hole for the spark plug because they put a drain. There's a hole on the side of the engine that you can see so that if water gets down in that, the water, and there's a venting hole because if water would get down there, it will boil and then it'll pop the spark plug cap off. But they put a drain in there so the water runs out. Well, he saw a little bit of water running out of his and he was wondering if there was something wrong. And it was like, no, that's what that hole is for. So, yeah, I think if you're not careful, like those gaskets, if they get oil underneath them, then they're slippery and they can fall out. So, yeah, it's not a specific. It's usually has to do with the person working on the bike. Is there a newer 2023 plus issue with the engines? All videos I watched, the gasket was staying with the valve covers, but newer ones seem to fall out. Oh no, don't worry about it. This is what the show is all about. Tech Talk Taco Tuesday is a show where Jimmy Lewis, that's me, answers your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions. I do this every Tuesday for a couple of hours or so. I'm trying to help you learn about your motorcycles and whatever else you need to know. Answer most life questions. I don't know where Victor's at because he could probably say something really mean now. Jerry's mad at me because I'm not very good at reading his poetry. And Jimmy Tyler said he would have come in, but he went to Alaska. So somebody's got to get away from me. But no, I don't think that there's I don't think there's any. If anything, everything is getting just a little bit better and better. They're learning how to make clearances tighter so gaskets stay in place, and just materials are getting better. And people say, oh, but they're making it in China. Well, they making a lot of stuff in China for a long time, and that stuff's all getting better. So just so you know, don't worry. Just ride your bike. Don't work on it too much. Just ride it. You know, listen, if you want to work on your bike, let Tech Talk Taco Tuesday know what you want to work on, and I'll tell you whether you should touch it or not. My buddy here, Jeremy, wanted to do a full KTM 500 motor rebuild, and we put one seal and one bearing inside of his engine, and it's perfect again. And that saved him a lot of money and me a lot of time. And we'll do it later because he bought all the parts. Watery Events 960 says, my dad got me a deal on a 2018 YZ450 FX for $2,600 from his racing buddy. It's in great shape. Bullet radiator guards and all. Well, Bulletproof Designs is a sponsor of the show. You're stoked. Watery Events. I don't know where the question is in this. I'm gonna look for it. If you got a question, let me know. Those are good bikes. get yourself the Yamaha Power Tuner. You have to plug into that one. But that can make that bike do anything you want. You can turn it into a motocross bike. You can turn it into a trail bike. All you have to do is plug it in and push a button. It's pretty cool. And used bike prices right now are really cheap. And you've got a cool dad, by the way, to get you. Stackmasters talking about my reference. They don't even want to let hikers in. That's true. The real core greenies do not want hikers either. But they want to have their own house and their own little place back there, but nobody else can get in there. Yep. I'm not as stoked on that, whatever that other thing is. If you see something it's called Ride Apart, just delete it. Just say you don't like it. That guy's a tool bag. Not happy that people masquerade as motorcycle journalists, and probably they don't have any qualifications to be one, but they know how to push buttons on a computer. Kind of like I know how to do a podcast. There we go. Let's see. First bike was a 79 RM60. Dude, because I remember I rode a YZ50 back in like 81. Did they have an RM60 back then, or was it RM50? Clarify, please. The Night Punisher says, is it too late for the Rooster Endo segment? Well, we've already displayed our Rooster Endo bikes, which I'll do right now. So right now it's between this Cherry Yamaha, which may be for sale, PW50, where I told the owner his kid needed to tell me a little bit more about the bike, and it would automatically win. Usually if it's a Yamaha, it automatically wins, but we kind of pulled that card last week when somebody else said a PW50. Or it's this is Taylor's bike that allegedly is for sale. It's called Roost Endo or for sale. I'm surprised Ricky Brabeck didn't send me a picture of a bike he's got for sale. This bike is Taylor's Sierra 450L. It's all Champ ADV'd out. I forgot to talk about, like, he looks like he's riding in a pretty cool place. That he's up in the mountains. Look at that. But hard to get all these pictures in the foreground. But yeah, Rooster Endo, it's submitted. So what you got to do is you have to send Rooster Endo, brought to you by Tacomoto. That's tacomoto.co. Go there for all your moto needs. They give us a $100 gift certificate every week for this segment. And we still haven't decided who won. So you can help us decide who won, but you need to send an email to me and tell me a little bit about your bike, follow the rules that I've talked about in many episodes. And it's too late for this show, but not for the next. Fast Eddie says, with a huge amount of KX327 and X version, which other Japanese manufacturers will follow, do you think? TBI, electric, kicker, full skid plate, light, 18-inch rear fan, basically enduro bike, but Asian. So I guess we got to talk about it. Kawasaki announced the KX327 today. I have a picture. I thought I put a picture in here someplace. Let's see if I have a picture. I know I can make a picture come up somehow on one of my things. I'll break the internet here if I do this. You would think that I would have my my own website. You would think that my own website would be ready to go. Many times. The show that tells you how it really works. If you want more power in your bike, it's real simple. Turn the throttle farther. It works every time. And I promise you that when you think you want more power, you can probably turn the throttle farther. First step right there. And if you've turned the throttle all the way, can you get more RPM out of it? Because that's the other way to get more power. And they're both free. So Watery Event says, that was my question. 450 FX came with Holy smoke. Came with a Travis Preston tune in it. I think I should set it to all zeros till I get used to it. Dad has the tuner, and yes, it was a 1979 RM60. Okay. So the funny thing is try all the zeros and play with it and go back and forth. Like if you have a little test loop or whatever, or test track you're going to do a couple laps with one, come in, change it, do a couple laps with the other. Of all the maps, and I love to tease Travis Preston about this, because Travis is kind of primarily responsible for the stock maps in the 450, and he makes his map even more of what he wants. I actually don't like that. I hate it, in fact. I make my own map, and Travis hates my maps too. He wonders why anybody would want to do that to his amazing map. But they do make a difference, and I think those ones are even more tunable than the current ones, by the way. So let's see. Gary hasn't seen that Honda before. Sorry, my bad. I should have waited till near the end. You got to send it in before the show. I can barely drink my beer here. Let me do that right now. The sound is gone. That's on your end. Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. The sound is gone. Like, quiet, Jimmy. Sound is back. Jimmy's breaking the internet as he, of course it. Shit. Okay, so when I went here, let me fix this right now because I keep doing this. Let me find the screen here. You're going to have to bear with me for a second because Rooster Endo. Okay, here we go. I have to fix that. I said some really good things. No, it wasn't too much tequila. I should have just drank my beer while I was behind that screen. So that screen needs to be fixed. And I know if I don't do it right now, I'm going to forget it. I'm going to make a note for myself. I have a permanent marker, and I'm going to write it on my, I should write it on my face, like a face tattoo. But I'm going to write it here. Fix. It's the, what screen was it? All guest. Add sound. I won't remember to do this, but I'll try my best, which is very much. You came back and answered my question. Okay. If I didn't, okay. Thank you, chat, for letting me know that I just did, my best 30 seconds of the show while the screen was blank. Write it backwards so I can read it in a mirror. Yeah. Write it on my face. Thank you. Where's Victor at? Where's my buddy Victor? Thanks for reminding me there's no sound, because I have no idea. Like, I don't see what goes out. It's literally, I don't remember what I do in the show, but I don't see what goes out of this. And when sometimes stuff breaks, and I looked right over at the soundboard, and I'm like, oh God, because this thing. See, this soundboard is a Yamaha soundboard. Yamaha brings you this show, and I'm not kidding. This is the best soundboard ever because it can do really cool things like
make my voice sound like the devil.
In case somebody wants to be mean to me, and then I'll just talk back to them, because the Voice-O-Matron is super awesome. It's a Yamaha product, by the way.
I can do weird things like this, and everything goes kind of cattywampus.
But if you're a professional podcast show host like I am, you need to know how to do these kinds of things, or make the sound work just in general. Let's see. So well, Yamaha paid me to not tell you anything about the KX 327, and I'm pretty sure that Yamaha is not paying for the audio when I show a picture of a Kawasaki on the show like this. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to show you the picture of the Kawasaki, and I'm going to fix it really quick because I know how to do this. So enjoy this picture of the Kawasaki while I take one moment to. I wish I could play music, but I'm not that good. So I'm going to fix this thing, and then we'll go from there. So watch the picture of the Kawasaki and then drool, because it's a two-stroke. And Okay, how did that work? Did I get the sound back? You have to let me know because I can't tell, but I think I fixed it because I'm a half-ass. You have the amazing thing is like just like everybody else on YouTube and the internets and stuff. I get paid so much money to do this, and all I do. Wait, watery events. He plays bass. Do you know Davide 504? Yep. If you play bass, you'd better know Davide 504. That guy knows how to run a YouTube channel, by the way. So, okay, we're good to go. The sad tombstone sound. I could read a poem from Jerry right now, or I could answer some more motorcycle product related questions. So the other thing I was going to do is I was going to go on to the Book of Faces and answer some of the questions and things like that. The crazy thing is that there was one, I know what it was. I'm going to find it. All I see is pictures of, so of course Sherco is showing pictures of their two strokes too. It's like, because everybody's all about two strokes. I'm looking for a picture of this one guy. There's a group. Wait, I know how to find it here. I go back. Here it is. Now if my audio goes out, just hammer the chat real quick so I can fix this. This screen here. That's here. Nope, that's the wrong screen. This screen here. Nope, not that one there. How about this screen here? Look at this. Nope, that's the wrong screen again. Damn it. I'll fix it. Here we go. Okay, let's talk about the Facebooks. So this guy here, I invited him to come on and explain. Well, I don't want to say explain himself. He has a really legitimate question. So this is on the KTM Gas Husky 4-stroke Enduro Tech Talk. And he says, long-time rider and apparently short time trying to get panniers set up correctly. I've done several long single-track enduro rides, Idaho Grit, Tour of Tillamook, Tour of Idaho attempts, and have yet to have major issues until a month or so back. On the newer 2020 Plus bikes, the exhaust is so close to the frame it can cause issues. See the picture below. Ouch. I've since transitioned to running them under the plastic frame guard to keep away from the exhaust, but it's not a Sano setup. I like the Voile straps, since it allows a bit of give and will break before the bag tears or get hung up. Open to suggestions. So anyways, I said something, but let's see, most relevant. I should be the most relevant comment. Come on. I told him, didn't get posted. Maybe I got banned. Who knows? I'm an administrator on this forum, I think. So let's talk a little bit about this. So he's using, this is the Voile strap here that he's using. He's kind of, pulling it down low, and he's not really showing you his whole setup and how this sets up on the back. So I also run these, the Giant Loop panniers, and I have done this kind of stuff before, but I run a heat shield. So Giant Loop and a few other companies make really nice heat shields that will elevate the exhaust side away from the bike. So you always want to, keep some spacing there. Otherwise you're going to, melt everything. So, and the other thing is if they flop around, and so he's using, this strap is pretty rubbery and elastic. I use the stock straps, which are nylon, and I pull it up more near where the shock mount is, and I do a figure eight around the frame up there, specifically to keep it away from the heat of the exhaust down where that strap is. Now, I know he's got a little bit of spacing there, but it's not good, and that strap is so elastic that it will allow that back flap to flop around. So I pull it more straight forward. But the other thing I do is I put a bolt at the back of the seat, because that pannier, those panniers, the soft bags will slide a little bit under the seat, and then I put one 6mm bolt that I drill through the bag, through the fender, and I bolt it down there so it's anchored at a very strong point of the fender, and then I can pull tightly to a higher point on the bike, and it stays snug. It doesn't flop around as much as this. And when you're pulling them down low, they don't seem to like that as much. They see it's just more near the heat on specifically that side of the bike. So I use the stock straps, and I run the stock straps back and get into their position, and then it's bolted onto the bike, so it's not going to go anyplace. I've been doing this for a long time. I didn't do attempts at some of those rides. I completed them with very little incidents. So I have a Tour of Idaho video someplace. You can go watch it. Search, go to Dirt Bike Test, search Jimmy Lewis Tour of Idaho. It'll come up. It's a good way to waste 45 minutes of your life and get inspired to do something else. Next on the agenda, this was another one here. Someone was asking. I'm going to take this off here. I'll turn that down. The chat. Someone was asking, are the Motion Pro CPC Fuel Quick connectors compatible with KTM Husaberg gas cast connections? I want to test the fuel pump inline pressure. I think they are, but I would go with something. These are plastic. These ones are plastic, and I've had them fail at the kind of the junctions. They seem to work fine for non-pressurized fuel lines, but I wouldn't use them for fuel pressure. It's just a little bit too much. So take it from someone who's broke something before. But they make really good ones. And the connector, I usually pair it with like a Golan type filter or one of the Takomoto filters. You get a Golan one at Takomoto, and or Rottweiler has some really nice options where that connector is actually a fuel filter. And then Takomoto also makes a really nice fuel pressure tester as well. That's long enough so you can actually ride the bike with it to kind of watch it go. So there we go. I'm going back to the chat right now to see what you guys are saying. Let's see. What you want to hear my insights on the KX327? I think Kawasaki nailed it with it. It looks like the first bike that they built, deciding it was all their KX, when they go to the X, it's just an afterthought. It looks like they said, hey, we're going to make this a really good X, and then we'll make a motocross bike out of it, especially when they go to that 6-speed transmission, which I think is going to be really good. It looks like they got the skid plate right and those kind of things. So let's see. Yeah, I did not ride, Joe. I did not ride the KX327. I don't know hardly anything about it. Everything we know about it is basically written all over the internet right now because it's thing. And somebody knows James HOA says Davide is the bomb. Davide 507. If you want to waste some time on the internet, Davide 504. Go watch and I'm not into music at all, but this guy makes music entertaining. He's really, really good. Watery Events says he's in the Pacific Northwest Dirt Group here in Washington, so my feed got flooded with KX327 posts. Yeah, that's gonna. I mean, you just look and see how many KTM 300s are out there, and it's a ripe market for something new. And KTM just keeps making the 300s, and they're really good. And it's hard to beat that platform, I think. And people say, why doesn't Yamaha make a 300 two-stroke with fuel injection and blah, 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 electric start, all this stuff? Because I think Yamaha realizes that they make a very simple carbureted bike with no frills, and it's inexpensive in comparison, and it rips, and it's simple. And then, so why try to compete with, and everybody wants to know, like, why did it take so long for Kawasaki to make this? knowing a few things about fuel injection and electronic power valves, I'd be willing to bet that they ran into some durability issues. Now, I'm not going to get an invite to the KX327 intro for saying this. I believe that they probably found it was harder to get the bike. They could probably make it run really, really good, but it wasn't going to be durable enough for the regular customer. KTM went through this with their bikes back in the day. And just like I told you that there's no way in hell that a Stark Varg is going to charge as fast as they said it would, or have the battery life that they said it would when they first started. And then I got banned from them because they say I hate electric bikes, which I don't. But I'm just telling you what I know from some kind of crazy experiences that I have. Just in general, knowing a lot of stuff. A fuel-injected electronic power valve 2-stroke is a difficult project, and it takes a lot of time to get right for a regular customer. Not just to make one rip, but anyways. So Wookie Edit 0 says, hi. Hey, bud. His sister, Watery Events, has a 2024 KTM 150 XCW 2-stroke. It is such a smooth ride. You know, a lot of people don't like those, but I think they're really good. I prefer the 200. I wish KTM would have kept the 200 platform, but I think for regular people, especially people that are lighter weight, those are awesome bikes as well. And you heard that it was case read. You know, I haven't looked that closely at the motor. I can probably take a look real quick. We should have a detailed picture someplace. No, we don't. Trevor, I can look at the photo and tell you if I zoom in somehow or another. Yes, it appears to be a case read. That's the way everybody's going with 2-strokes in general now. Just because it's just been proven to be a more efficient method to get the fuel in there. You're going to, and you know, what they didn't say was whether it was oil injected or premix, by the way. I don't know if anybody caught on to that. So, and Gary Drummond says, Cody Webb seems like the 250FX over the 250X. Well, so he's talking about the 4-stroke versus the 2-stroke. I really think it has a lot to do with electric start, to be honest with you. Those guys rely so much on being able to run at a really low RPM and then be able to restart the bike instantly if they have a problem. So that's a thing. And MX Beans 1206 says, thoughts on the new Sierra 450? There's 9 pounds less motorcycle there. It'll be interesting to see. That's going to be a huge change. And Honda has done this in the past. Honda has slowly made their bikes heavier and heavier and then just dropped a whole bunch of weight. This is kind of a trend that KTM has been going on, and obviously they've had a lot of success with it. So it'll be interesting to see if the bike feels that much lighter, because the scale weight and the riding weight, it's usually the width of the bike and the overall size of the bike tend to affect the weight more than what the scale says. But I know that was something that was a design parameter that they've been working on, and having seen the size of that motor, they're really working on shrink wrapping stuff and making things simple. So I don't know. I'd like to. I have thoughts after I ride them. I don't know necessarily if I like the color scheme and stuff. I'm sure I'll get used to it, but like, I don't know. Maybe they got sick of gas making their bikes look like Hondas. C. Kiefner 45 says, "Hey Jimmy from Baja with John Vander Lands and Simon Edwards Team 611. Hey there, bud. I heard you guys are looking for some more ride. Hey, if you're over 60 and you want to ride on a Baja 1000 team, talk to C. Kiefner 45. Just saying. I'm not over 60, and I would not race a score race to save my ass. I wouldn't do it. I'm trying to think of how much start money would I take to ride a score race right now? Because I know what I was getting when we rode the BMW HP2. And I would say it would be double or triple of that, which is a lot. So, and then do I think KTM will stop making Gas or Husky? No, I don't think they will. I think they're going to try to position them a little bit differently. And somebody heard that the KX 327 was Premix. I'm having a little premix right now. So, okay. Well, that's most of the questions on the show. We have some new stuff. And it sounds good, says Ari Woodsense. Oh, he's a little bit behind. It's funny, if you're listening to this right now and you're just listening to a podcast, you're not missing anything. But if you jump into the live show in one form or another, whether on YouTube or Facebook, sometimes you can come in at a big delay. So kind of sometimes refresh it and or check in. If I'm not getting to your question and it looks like I'm in a trance, it's because I'm answering another question and I probably did see yours, or you're watching an old episode, which don't worry, some people have done that. They're watching last week's show thinking that I'm talking live right now. I've got to clean that up. But to get the latest and greatest, subscribe to us on YouTube. That's the best thing you can do. Subscribe. You'll get a ping whenever we go live, and then you can go in the chat and you can find out what I'm drinking. Tonight it's Los Sundays tequila and little Miller High Life on the side. I had my tacos already from the Maria's Tacos down the street at Coyote Corner. Really good tacos, 3 for $5. Where can you get a deal like that? Not many places. Sure as hell not in California. So loving my Pahrump right now. Valley of the Dirt people, where it is officially too hot to ride. And somebody wants me to clean it up. Why did everyone hate the 97 CRF 250 or CR 250? The subframe was weak, but I love mine. Sold it 15 years ago and regret it. So, watery events. I liked that bike. I was at Cycle World magazine that year. That was the first aluminum framed motocross bike. It was a big deal. I think that everybody except for Motocross Action really liked the bike. And this is back when there was just a few magazines. And this is what Motocross Action did all the time. They knew everybody else was going to be tripping over our own ding-dongs to tell you how good that bike was. And it was good at the time, but it did have some flaws. It was really, really stiff. It was an overbuilt chassis. It was probably the best bike for freestyle. But if you were going around a choppy, choppy, higher speed turns, the front end was probably wicked. I would really like to ride one of those bikes again today. It would be interesting because Honda instantly started going away from that stiff of a frame because they were more worried about it breaking than anything else. I mean, some riders just got on that thing and hated it because of what it did. I came from a desert racing background, so the stiffness in the chassis was a good thing, but I only rode that as a motocross bike. Actually, I think I raced one in an Extreme Enduro. Take it back. I don't know. We rode the crap out of those things. Anyways, but if it's a motocross bike, I only tested it as a motocross bike. And I used to race like Grand Prix and stuff on them. And I did well, even on that high-speed chop, because I kind of knew how to set the suspension up. At the time, I was really big on running very little sag on the bike, so I put a lot of weight on the front end, which kind of made it work where everybody else was kind of doing different things. But I didn't put stiffer fork springs in a one bigger rear tooth sprocket like Motocross Action did, so who knows. But I like that. Instantly, I realized that it was too stiff after I rode newer versions of it. But it was mostly just that. And I think a lot of people hated it because Motocross Action said it was no good. And then they proceeded to tell you all the ways to fix it, which none of them were the way that I fixed it. And I think at the same time, I was actually going out to, like, whether it was Glen Helen on Saturday and beating their pro test rider at the time, or at least having a good battle with him, Willie Muskrat. We would battle on Saturday motocross, and I could beat him on the Honda. Maybe. I was riding a KX500 a lot back then too. Who knows? Okay. 98 CR125. That's another. Yeah, those are stiff. Those are really, really stiff bikes. I think when they got like a little bit into the 2000s, the early 2000s, they found a much sweeter spot. But then Honda started, then the 250 started coming with that RC electric power valve, and that thing was kind of wonky. And the 125, they did something that we had to vent the ignition to make it make power. I don't remember. No, that was in 96. I don't remember. There was a lot of, I can't remember. Hardly remember anything. Anyways, but what I do is I do answer 9 out of 10 of your motorcycle and motorcycle product related questions without referring to a reference manual. I would like to thank everybody for joining in and watching us go down this crazy path of figuring out what's wrong with your motorcycle. What motorcycle questions do you have? I used to run a motorcycle riding school, so I can tell you you don't know how to ride too if you ever want me to dive down that thing. Okay, we got some more things. Watery Event says, my dad took first overall in the 03 season on it before he gave it to me, and that sounds like he had a similar setup. Well, your dad's a smart guy if he had a setup like me. And I bet a well-abused 97 CR would feel good today, finally with all the metal fatigue over the years. I think you're right. I don't know how much aluminum chassis metal fatigue, because I mean, I have a 2005 YZ125 that still feels chassis-wise really, really good. And maybe I'm just fatiguing and I can't feel it anymore, but I'll leave that up for you to decide. Maybe we'll be back next week. Maybe I'll have a special guest. Maybe I'll just do this stupid show by myself and try to keep my sponsors happy. By the way, Yamaha Bulletproof Designs. Happy birthday to Bud at Bulletproof Designs. I heard it's his birthday. We have the guys from Tugger, I believe, are coming on as soon as I write them up a contract. Tugger straps. This is what you need if you ride a Husaberg like me. Except I go riding by myself. Somebody should have. Oh, yeah, thank you, Gary. Yeah. The problem is when you go riding by yourself, this tow rope doesn't do much good other than I could hang myself with it, except there's no trees in the desert. Did the PW50 win the night? No. Nope. I'm going to give Rooster Endo 2. Thank you for reminding me, Gary. Actually, Gary, submit a bike for Rooster Endo and I'll make sure you win. Whatever. Take a picture of a friend's bike. I don't care. The Honda CRF 450, Taylor's bike wins. Why? Because it felt like the second time. Maybe this popped up in his email box that said follow up and he just sent it. But there's no way that all of a sudden you can just say, oh, he picked a PW50 last week and it wins, and you could stand over your little child's bike and you could take a picture of it, not tell me the name of your kid, and expect it to win. So Taylor, you win Takomoto's Rooster Endo. Here's what you got to do. You got to send me an email or reply to this email and tell me that you won, because I'll forget, and we'll get it taken care of. Oh, MX Beans, really? You want to go here? You really want? What Husaberg do you have? You can't have just one. I mean, because the Husabergs, like ever since they were invented, it's 4-stroke force. I mean, they decided they were going to revolutionize 4-strokes. It's a long history. There's some stuff on the internet that's mostly inaccurate, but there's some stories about it. You can read about it. When I saw one in 1989 at the ISD in Germany, and I had to race my XR250 against this Husaberg 350 that looked like a factory Honda at the time. I'm like, what the heck? How do I race against that? I mean, I've got a XR250 that was bored out to a 280, so let you know. But he had a Husaberg 350. It's Thomas Gustafsson. I remember this. But, roll along, and they were out, Husky was trying to win the 500cc GPs and stuff like that. Husaberg just comes along with Joel Smets and starts winning world championships. And I got to ride some of these things. Hold on. I'm gonna come back right here. We don't want to look at Thomas's bike anymore. I'm gonna be right back. I want to get a picture. I got a picture of something. You said Husaberg, so you said Husaberg. It's not like I don't keep a collection of Husaberg stuff in here for you to look at, for me to look at. So that's an early Husaberg. I don't own this bike because this is the one that actually has the cylinder disconnected from the cases. But so I rode Husabergs from day one. I got a chance to ride them, and they were gnarly. And it was so I had a thing for them. And which ones do I own? So Husaberg kind of made bikes, and then I raced against them. I wanted to ride one because I was a 4-stroke guy, but I was riding for KTM at the time. And so I got a chance to ride them, and then I was a magazine guy. I got to ride all of them, and they were always like, they were quirky, but they were my favorite. And there was always some sort of durability issues with them, but they would never let me have them long enough to experience the durability issues. So so I finally, when KTM took them over, and this is back with the Husaberg built ones that KTM sort of remanufactured, we had a 650, and that bike was just a butter cutter. So much power. Like, it's the only bike on some of these hill climbs that you upshift halfway up there. I mean, they make power. They pull, and just stock. They rip. So then in 2008, that was when the KTM group took it over. They fuel injected it. They flipped the motor all around, the 70-degree motor. That 570, unbelievable. Love that bike. So I have 3 of those. So 3 Husaberg 570s, if you want to know how many. But then I also have a 550 and 2 650s, one a Swedish-built 650 and one an Austrian-built 650. That's my collection of Husabergs. Someday get me to ask me one of these days about the cylinder rule for when you get old, because I got 6 cylinders of Husabergs. And the question is, Jesse, is a Husaberg a mechanic's bike? No. A Husaberg is a ticking time bomb that is going to blow up. It's just a matter of when, and you do not want to work on it. They are horrible to work on. The older one's a little bit better than the KTM, the 70-degree motor versions of them, but they are just, yeah, it's a mechanic is afraid of it. I'm putting a new ignition on my old Swedish one right now. And I don't want to work on it because, believe it or not, you had a little issue with the battery and it kind of tried to explode. And to get the battery out, I have to take the shock off. So it just tells you what that's like. Okay. Are we Donese 6222 says, "Hey Jimbo, I have a question regarding a leak down test on a Husqvarna TC125 2021. I replaced the crank seal on the transmission side. I did a leak down test and it does not hold pressure." Okay, how does it run? So here's the thing. Is it sucking air? Does it have like an air leak? Because sometimes, and I've seen people put the seals in backwards, by the way, on the crank seals, because they don't know what they're doing. But anyways, and then it will never hold pressure. But a lot of times it'll actually hold pressure when you put the crank seal in backwards, but when you rev it, it'll suck air in. So make sure you're putting the crank seal in the proper way. Usually you can tell by revving, it'll really pop, 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 it'll make pop. So, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of leak down tests. I'm a big fan of how things run. If you replaced it properly, it should be fine. So it was sucking transmission fluid into the crankcase. Fix that problem and it should be fine. What years the Husabergs with everything opposite as far as the clutch, brakes, and etc. So 2000, previous to 2008, everything was backwards. Wheels, sprockets were on the wrong side. Everything was opposite. Kicked on the left if it had a Kickstarter. Ari says, I do pump it up to 6 psi so it leaks air. I can hear it from the right side power valve. Covers are off both sides. Definitely leaking from the crank seal transmission side after I replace it. So if you're doing the leak down, it can get up into the piston and blow it out through the port transfer ports and go down essentially out through the power valve. I'm not, like I said, that's why there's too many places for those things to leak. So don't do leak downs. Fix the problem, and then it should be fine. James says, was the Husaberg folks that had the lay down cylinder funky? Yes, that was the Husaberg was the 70-degree motor. So when you start looking at like the things that Yamaha did and things that, well, Cannondale did too, you'll see some stuff. Nothing's new. And Husaberg had an idea about handling that kind of worked and kind of didn't. It was, you either liked it or you didn't. And I really like it. It's the kind of bike, if you're riding it on one wheel, front or rear, it works amazing. If both wheels are on the ground, it gets heavy. Gary Drummond, was there no rev limiter on the Swedish Bergs? Yeah, there was a rev limiter, but it was pretty high. If you were an idiot, you could blow them up. It was an old, they were running a SEM ignition inside there, and so it was an analog ignition, and they had a high rev limit. And on the bigger bikes, you could definitely blow them up. Back to the crank seal, not leaking from the crank seal on the flywheel side of the exhaust. It's bunged up. Spark plug in there as well as the cap, no leaks. Let's see. He reads that it's normal for the power valve to leak some air. Is this the case? Yes. Oh, the power valve leaks a ton of air. Yes. Yeah, that's why I don't do leak down tests on bikes like that. I just make sure I assemble them properly. And, maybe, because it really depends, is the bike up to operating temperature when you do the leak down test? And there's a lot of different things you can do. It's a lot of work for a little information. is the way I look at it. And a good rider could ride the bike and tell you whether something was wrong. And if it's, if you're trying to determine like the leak down versus power, hey, sometimes a loose engine that leaks a lot makes a lot of power and runs really free. Ohio Dual Sports says, what do you like about the 570 compared to the new 500s? I owned a 570 back in 2009. Can I just say one word about this? Power. That is the 570. The 570 and the older 650 single with the pumper carb on it. Those two motors, actually any Husaberg that they made a 650 just oozes torque. I mean, torque like you just do not feel in a single cylinder motor. Maybe the KTM like 701, what was it? 690. KTM 690/701 has something like that, but it's not the same. But the 570 is just probably the perfect four-stroke motor in a relatively stock tune. I played around with the ignition, and I have an ignition setting and some stuff that just makes it unbelievable. And then I have a 3-position map switch, and I have these 3 different maps that bike it'll just be a pussy cat, and then it'll just be a ferocious lion. That's why I love them. And the sound, plus it just talks to you out of the air filters right by your nuts. whether you feel it or you hear it. Oh, yeah. Hello, Husaberg. It's been a little while. I haven't been able to deprogram about my Husabergs. I was going to shut this freaking show down. Now look what you guys did. I'll have another shot of Sundays right now. Thoughts on the new DRZ4S? Have you rode one? I have not. I would love to ride one. I saw them, and, you know, getting a new bike out here and testing it the way I like to test things is a lot of work. And unfortunately, since AI can do everybody's work for them, and then you can just have Carson Brown ride it and do a couple quick laps, which is, by the way, Kawasaki, just don't do any intros. Just get Carson Brown to ride your KX327 and call it a day. Then you don't have to do anything else these days, because everybody go, oh my God, best bike ever. And then, but no, it's funny. I haven't seen that DRZ4S is a very interesting bike, because I really like the old one and it needed an update, and it'd be interesting to ride. That'd be a good bike. Let's see. How fast do you do the leak down, or you just want to look at work while the piston is buzzing along? As far as I've seen, I'm lost now. I haven't even had this last shot here. Let's see. I keep seeing 990 Adventures for sale, says Jesse8920. If I had the room, I would get one. I don't have that per-ump space. Well, I have the very first KTM 950 ever brought in the country, if you want to buy that. But it needs to go to someone that's gonna do something nice with it, and it needs to bring me lots of money. It's got to be worth. It's frame number 100, which is 00. It's probably worth a lot of money. It actually says it's a KTM 530 on the registration. That's how early it is. It's a year before any other one came in the country. It was a Cycle World magazine test bike, so you can buy that. And then have a piece of history. You can put it on a shelf in your wine cellar, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Can I shut this show down? Are we done with all the questions now? Again, thanks to everybody for joining in. Thanks to all my sponsors. Fast Company. I tried to get Cole on the show tonight, but he says he's got a headache. Yeah. What else is up? Our original sponsor, DDC, Tugger, Bulletproof Designs, Scott Goggles, I think. I don't know. They had some changes down there. I got to figure out whether they're still on board. Climb. Climb makes awesome gear. I got some new Climb stuff, some new stuff the other day, and the cool thing is that the XC Pro gear feels like you're wearing nothing when you're riding in it. It's so hot now. That's what I will be riding. And that's it. I just got 1.99 million USD from Arwe Does. Arwe Odents. I can't spell names. Awesome insight. I dig this community. So do I. Hey, I enjoy doing this. I'm Microbrew sponsor. There's some talks on the table. There's my buddy Marco's supposed to be hooking it up, but I didn't see a lot of the regulars tonight. But we have some new regulars. Gary's definitely in there. And if you won Roosterendo before, I'll give you a pass. Just put that in the thing. I won before, but you told me to. You have to remind me, because I forget everything when I walk out of the room. So. Okay, maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe I'll have a special guest. Maybe I will be out riding and won't be able to attend to your needs, because the thing is, this show might go on a little bit of a hiatus during the winter, or I'm going to be doing more from my bed while I'm out and about. So cheers, everybody. We will see you out in the trail. And whoa. Fast Eddie gave me 5 million USD, $500. That's it. I'm running down to the, you know what we have down at the end of the street here. I can go get a beer with all this money. This will be awesome. See ya. Oh God, now I have to turn this show off. I didn't even read a poem from Jerry.
If you like what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully, we'll see you out in the trail.